Hey, welcome to your Pisces horoscopes for the week of the 21st through the 27th of January. We're going to start off with the week with a little bit of a complication. We're going to end the week with a little bit of a complication, but there's a lot of good stuff around that. So it really is driving in. Temporary complications are exactly that, temporary complications. I think it's really easy for all of us, and I think emotional signs do have more of a difficulty, I would say, than the other ones. But for all of us, it's really easy for us to see a complication, especially for dealing with some pretty big complications. Those little complications just really add up. They become a huge pile of mess that we have to clean up at some point, and we just don't want to clean it up because it's a mess that we just don't want to deal with, blah, blah, blah. We make it so much more complicated than it really needs to be. And considering that we live our lives with one little complication after another, it is imperative that we find a way to work around that. So we're going to start off with the first complication, of course, which is at the beginning of the week, as Neptune, both Neptune and Saturn are still in Pisces, and they will be all year long. Neptune almost leaves and then goes retrograde and decides to stay for a little bit longer. So both planets focused on those that support you. This support system is a big deal for Pisces, and most, especially for emotional signs. The support system, having those established people that you can rely on, is really important. In some cases, it even defines who you are by having this support system. And that's really not a good way of looking at it, because your support system can be there one minute and then not at the next. And it's not because they don't want to, it's not because they don't like you. They're just not available, And to put all your eggs in that basket, it does definitely creates situations where you can become emotionally buried in your feelings around that. So we're going to start off with Neptune's square with Venus at the beginning of the week. By midweek, this is over, so it's only the first few days of the week. Venus is focused on finances. Neptune is focused on support, your support system. This sort of creates one of those challenges that comes up a lot in terms of having support around your financial goals, especially if you're in a relationship, because relationships, you tend to share the financial responsibilities. And when I say a relationship, I really am talking about a legal partnership or marriage here. Finances tend to be a decision that both people make, not necessarily one person. Yes, it's not always like that. There are, different types of relationships, but for the most part, you have to work together in terms of your financial success. And when it feels like you're working and the other person is not working, and even in some cases they're working against you, this is a really familiar problem. It's a really emotional problem, because both of these planets do have a pretty heavy emotional influence. But it also creates this challenge where it feels like with this person, you are never going to succeed. And that feels really crappy. However, Saturn is in a grand sextile all week long with Venus as well as Jupiter. Now, Jupiter's focus is letting go of your old mindset. It's releasing your trauma. It's saying no more allowing the past to have an influence over your future. So whatever happened to you before is done. We need to move on from it. It's not easy to do that. A lot of people have a really hard time doing that. I have worked with a lot of people who have had a hard time doing that. I've had a hard time doing that. Bottom line is, until I let it go, it ruled my life. And I'm responsible for the choices that I make. I'm responsible for my success. Trauma, abuse, um, mismanaged programming from other people at various different parts of our lives. All of these are challenges, obstacles for us to overcome. They are not what writes our story. And that's really what this grand trine is all about, because Saturn's focus is also on your support system. But Saturn is a very different type of influence. Saturn represents professional support. Saturn represents responsible support. And if you're reaching for support to an irresponsible person, you are setting yourself up to fail. And that's really what this is all about. Also, in terms of financial goals, it's really important, especially this day and age. Everything has changed in our world. And the ways of building financial security that I was taught in my 20s by my parents and my grandparents are not necessarily the same as they are now. I mean, the basic rules apply, but things have also changed. We have access to a lot more products. We have access to a lot more different things. So to continue in that old way, it's just not very successful. And it may be time to explore some new options. And that's also what Saturn is about. Now, at the very end of the week on Saturday, the moon moves into opposition with Saturn, and the moon is focused on the home and your family. It's right there on the cusp as it's coming in about midday on Saturday, and continuing this challenge throughout the rest of the day. In terms of support, it really starts to feel like everywhere you go, every place you turn, nobody is being supportive of you. Nobody understands what you're going through. Nobody has an answer for you. And this can get really overwhelming. And this is the point where you get overwhelmed and go, see, I knew it. There was no way that I was going to be able to be successful in this. This is a temporary challenge. This is happening on this day. It's not happening necessarily tomorrow, or it's not happening the day after that for sure. I mean, there's a possibility that it could be happening tomorrow, but afterwards the moon moves on and this no longer becomes a challenge, even if it's a familiar challenge. It doesn't mean that it is a challenge that is never going to go away or is ongoing for the rest of your life. And if it is, then it is up to you to take steps to make sure that you change the way this process works. So if you want to be financially secure and put money aside, for example, let me just put it this way, okay? I've been married for almost 30 years. Neither one of us is really great with money, but we lived in each other's pockets for most of our marriage, up to about 2 or 3 years ago. We had a joint account. Everything was done through that one space. And there were complications with that. And we decided to separate that we still have the place where all the bill money goes, but we have our own money so that we have a little bit of a level of independence. It is an elegant solution to a problem where you feel like you can't be separated from each other. So you have your own space, you have your own money to do with as you need, but everything is being taken care of. And it's little things like that, just these little changes that make a huge difference in terms of your financial security, so to speak. We even have savings accounts in our own names open specifically so that we both feel like we have the freedom to and the responsibility to be able to take care of that as well. So it just makes it a little bit easier for us to be able to have that independence, deal with our finances in the way that we want to deal with them, but we're still both being responsible for whatever it is that we need to be responsible for. So you got to look at it in those terms. A challenge is not always that's it. There is no way out of this. You have to get past the trigger, the trauma trigger, the panic. And once you get past the panic, you can start to see a clearer picture of what you can do or what needs to be done in order to ensure that this challenge doesn't come up anymore, especially if this is an ongoing challenge that keeps coming up for you. It's miserable to feel like you're stuck doing the same thing over and over and over again and not get results. And, in all honesty, I think that even individuals who don't take the steps to ensure that make changes so that that doesn't become it isn't a challenge anymore. It's a form of self-sabotage if you don't do that. It's a form of self-sabotage if you just say it is the way it is and it's never going to change because it's always been that way. That's a form of self-sabotage. You're putting the power in somebody else's hands and not willing to do what it takes to fix it and or change it. And sometimes it's changing it up until you find a way that works, if that makes sense. So that's what I have for you guys this week. If you love your horoscopes, do consider sending a tip or donation through my coffee link, which is there in the description. Loving the coffee love. Thank you all so very, very much. Also in the description is a link to my membership. If you are interested in getting a personalized reading based on the horoscopes every single week, and that does include a tarot poll as well, then check out my membership in that link. I've also included my email address so that you can get in touch with me in case you have any questions, if you'd like to see a sample of the video. The videos are listed on YouTube, but they are unlisted videos. So they are for members only. And I will, of course, explain where you go to get that and all of that good stuff. And if you actually want to see what the video looks like, you do have to reach out to me so that I can send it to you, because chances are you won't find it on YouTube. So I'm Melissa Bruce, Heavy Metal Sidekick. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you guys next week. You guys have some faith in yourselves. You're a lot more badass than you think you are. Make it a great week, and I will see you next week.